is Noreen from Joy Cards, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And welcome to my YouTube channel. Yay! For more of my Stampin' Up! Card videos, please click that subscribe button and the little bell, and you'll be notified when my videos come up. Also, I give away the demo card. If you are a first-time subscriber, put your email in my comments and you could win the demo card if you're the first one. Now I have 3 demo cards, so I'm going to give away 3. So you have a good chance of winning a card. So this video, by the way, is about how to use the seaside shell dies, the coordinating embossing folder, and also how to use this pearlescent specialty paper because it does some really cool things, as you can see. So let me show you what I've got. So the reason why there are 3 cards is because I want to show you the 3 different ways you can use the combination of the embossing folder and the die, and of course the specialty paper. One is obviously just using it as an embossing folder. So that's one way. Another way is to use it and use the entire die and just leave it alone. And the third one is to take it and cut up the piece after you emboss it. So let's show you how to do this. By the way, this suite actually comes out of the mini catalog, the January to June 2021, and it's the Sand and Sea Suite collection. And I'm going to pretty much use everything here. The one thing I didn't get were these opal rounds, and I kicked myself for not getting it, but we'll use a different one, so it's okay. And if you need one of these catalog, and don't forget, Sale-A-Bration is coming up, so if you spend money in the catalog, either this one or the main one, you can earn free products. So if you need one of these, put your email in my comments and I'll mail you out one. So let's go ahead, and we're going to make just one of these cards, but I'll tell you how to make these other ones at the end as well, just briefly. So let's start with this card. For this card, we're going to be using, of course, the die, the Seashells embossing folder, and the friends are like seashells. I'm also going to be using the seahorse from Well Done, but you don't have to. And then the sentiment tag I'm using from Tasteful Labels, and it's this one right here. Also the pearlescent specialty paper and the Sand and Sea DS paper. So the base of this card is going to be Flirty Flamingo, 5.5 by 4.25, and you're going to be using this piece of the Sand and Sea DS paper, and this is going to be cut 4 1/8 by 5 7/8. So it just has a little bit of a border peeking out like so. Next, we're going to cut the actual piece. So this die is one inclusive piece. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to give it depth without using too many dimensionals. So the top part of this is in the specialty pearlescent paper. Now this is different from the shimmery white one because it's not white. And 2, this is more of a shimmer. The other one is more of a sparkle. So we're going to be doing this. And then I need you to cut 4 pieces of the basic white paper. And by the way, they changed the Whisper White to basic white in the catalog. It's part number 159276, just so you know. And what I'm going to do is going to take 4 pieces of the basic white in the 5.5 by 4.25, and I'm going to cut 4 more of these. So I'm going to layer them on top of each other. Now the first thing to do to get this embossing is to cut it first, and then we're going to emboss. So I'm going to take the pearlescent specialty paper, and I'm going to die cut this, and then I'm going to die cut 4 pieces of the basic white. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. So here's the cut. Now, if you notice, I taped this twice because I told you to use a 5.5 by 4.25, which actually, if you want to make it a little bigger because it just barely fits. So I taped it down twice to kind of keep it from swishing around. So I'm going to take this out of the die now. Now you want to use your 3D embossing folder. So the first thing you want to do is you do want to spritz this paper. And it does make a difference because I've already done my white pieces. And you can kind of tell the difference between this one I spritzed and this one I didn't. So you definitely want to spritz your paper and just get one of these little misters. It's in the body of my video here, and you can click on the bit.ly link and get right to my Stampin' Up site. Hey, place an order. So you definitely want to spritz this down. So I'm going to take it, spritz it off my table here, spritz it. And then you're going to take your embossing folder and look for the indented part. So the big long shell will be on your right. And you want to line that up and put that right in that gully of the embossing folder. So just kind of line it up real good. And then put your finger on it. Take this hand, fold it down, hold it like that, and pull this out. Also, this is a 3D embossing folder. This is why you use the water. And you're going to go on your embossing folder plate on your die cutter, and you need a specialty plate. Now, this is one of the Stampin' Up! Older ones. Now, they have a new specialty plate in the catalog, and that's also in my notes there. You'll see the specialty plate is number 154711. So all you do is put this on the base of your embossing folder and this on top, no other plate. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss this and I'll be right back. And that's what it looks like embossed. Now, if you don't have a specialty plate, it won't work. I have a Big Shot Plus and they didn't have a specialty plate for it, and it's a weird thing. So I had to get the smaller one, but it will, you have to get a specialty plate. So it's in my notes. So that's how you do that part. You got your Pearlescent specialty paper one done, and then you went and cut and embossed 4 of the basic white pieces. And now you're just going to go ahead and snail them together. So go ahead and take one of the pieces and go ahead and just use your snail and just tape it down here. And it's nice to have one of these silicone mats here because it keeps your workstation nice and clean. And it's awesome. You can do so many things on this silicone mat. And make sure all your little doohickeys are out. So you have, like I have a hanging Chad right there. And let's go ahead and just line that up on top. And it's nice that it's embossed because, you know, it's just going to fit right in. So I'm going to glue down all the rest of them and I'll be right back. Now, before you put your Pearlescent specialty paper on top of the 4 you just glued down together, we want to go ahead and color the paper. Now, this paper, what it does is it will take in the ink and it will smear a little bit, but it'll hold on to the ink, if that makes any sense. And you can test on like a scrap piece all the colors. So I put down all the colors on it so I could see what they would do. But I noticed when I was doing this that I had a thumbprint and it's like, oh, it does smear a little bit, but it will hold on to it. This is totally dry and it held on to the color. So, all right, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get these little sponges. The blending brushes are new to the catalog and they're fantastic, but this is such an intricate thing and I'm doing different colors on these that this is just too big. So we're going to be using the sponge. So I take my sponge and I've cut it up into 6 little wedges. And these are in the body of my my video as well. So if you don't have any of these, you can place an order. Yay. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and color it. And I'm kind of squeezing it and putting it directly on the paper. I'm not blotting it off or doing circles in. I actually want the full strength of the ink. And this color, I'm starting out, I always do 2 colors for my grasses and stuff, just because I don't know if it makes any difference on this or not, but I'm doing it. So this one is soft sea foam, and I'm just like pinching in the sponge and getting it as close as I can on all the little parts here. That's why you can't use the blending brushes. And I'm going to put this on and I'll be right back. I've got that layer of soft sea foam down. Now I'm going in with the old olive and I'm going to blend in this color as well. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Now I'm going to do the big conch shell and I'm going to go in with Calypso Coral. Now what's interesting about Calypso Coral is it's not on this list. Okay, so on your DS paper, this back page will tell you all the inks that will coordinate with the DS paper and such. But Calypso Coral isn't on it, but I liked it, so I added it. So a lot of the colors I'm going to be using are on that list. So go ahead and take another sponge and go ahead and rub this in. Now it's easier to tell on this big old shell what I'm doing here. And the more you rub, the more it gets into the embossed parts of that shell. So they'll be a little darker than what's around it. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to rub in and get as much to the edge as I can, not going into the green. And this will, you will get this on your fingers. So just be careful, have maybe a paper towel or something nearby so you don't transfer it onto you or anything else. So, but it will rub off a little bit. So we're going to do this in Calypso Coral, and that looks good. Let's move to the next color. Now I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo on the two oyster shells here. So this one and this one right here. And like I said, I'm not stamping off or rubbing in. I'm putting these on full strength because they do, as I said, they do rub off. So that was pretty quick. So that's that part. I did want to put a little tiny bit of definition on these two small shells. So I'm just putting a tiny bit of Sahara sand on it and just bringing that out just a little bit. So that's just what I did. So for this shell, I'm using Bermuda Bay and just rub that in full strength. Now this is a really dark color, so I'm probably not going to put as much ink, and I'll probably do a lot more rubbing. So I turn the sponge around to the clean part and kind of rubbing a little bit of this off and get it in there good. And that's that shell. The last color I'm using is So Saffron. So I'm taking it here, full strength, and just kind of rubbing it in, flipping over the sponge, and get it in there real good. And that's what that looks like. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off. I'm going to rinse off my hands because I've got ink on my hands and my silicone craft sheet, and then we'll layer it up. So now that I'm all clean, I'm going to go ahead and snail this up. And I usually don't like to use snail anything that pokes through, like, because snail will leave webbing. That's why a lot of people will use glue. But this piece is so thick that it won't matter. So I've snailed this all up, and I'm just going to put it on top here, and I'll be right back. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this on. But if you notice in my car, I've got these little seahorses, and I did take that out of Whale Done. It had a little seahorse because I thought it needed something. I think I'm only going to put two in and leave one of them out. So in order to do that, if you wanted to, go ahead and only put a few dimensionals on the bottom here and just kind of line it up where you want it, because what I need to do is I need to figure out where to put my little seahorse. So I've got my little seahorse stamp here, but before I do that, I stamped a piece of paper here. You don't have to use DS, I just happen to do it on this one. And I want to see where he's going to be the most seen here. And I kind of marked it. So right there. I mean, it's not a perfect science, but right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take him and stamp him up. Okay, and then take your pencil and take off the pencil mark. Okay, and then I think I'm just going to put the other one right here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to kind of see where he fits in the best. Kind of keep an eyeball on it. One there. And one there. And do the same thing. Stamp them. Put them right there as much as you can. I'm a little off, but that's okay. So you can at least see them. And now you're going to go ahead and just put the dimensionals on the rest of the piece. You need to bend up my card base to go ahead and get the rest of the dimensionals on. So just try not to bend it too much. And I'm using the regular size dimensionals and of course the mini dimensionals on the seaweed part of the piece, just on the biggest areas you can. Got all the dimensionals on there, and there we go. So now all we need is our sentiment. So I die cut in shimmery white, and I use this die from Tasteful Labels, and I'm going to use the sentiment, the love to you to the beach in the back, and go ahead and stamp this up. Then we're going to go ahead and dimensional the back. Now, shimmery white will not smear like the pearlescent. The pearlescent is a great little blending kind of paper, where this one, it stays. So you don't have to worry about it going anywhere. And then you can decide where you want to go ahead and put your sentiment. Now I'm going to put a little pearl on. Now, I didn't get the pearls that came with the set. I kind of kicked myself because they looked a lot prettier. But I'm going to use these pastel pearls, and there are some white ones here. So if you have those, that's great. And I just put that on the front. So that's the front of the card. The inside of the card is really easy. I use Balmy Blue 5 1/4 by 4. And then Whisper, or Basic White now. It's no longer Whisper White. So Basic White, and this is 375 by 5. And then I used Calypso Coral for the sentiment, and it's the happy birthday to my beautiful friend. So let's stamp this up. Now I'm using soft sea foam, and I'm just taking this little leafy thing, and I'm just going to put a bunch of them on. If you accidentally don't push hard enough or get the ink on there good enough, then you could just go over it. And then I'm going to take the little shell, and I'm going to use So Saffron, and I'm just going to put it in here. And that's the card. So let me also show you how I did the other two, because there are a couple little tricks to the other two. Now this card looks pretty easy. I just embossed it, and then I sponged over the entire piece of the embossed paper in that pearlescent specialty paper. And then I used painted labels for this part, and this is in the specialty paper as well, the Sand and Seed. There's a reddish paper to it. And then the inside is the sand part from Sea and Sand. And then inside here, what I did is I stamped the big conch shell and the seaweed, but what I did is I masked it. Now I do want to tell you something about masks. So I did the mask first with this, and then I realized that when you use our basic white paper, our paper's really good. That's why when you fold it, it doesn't crack and do all that stuff. And that is not what you want to use for masking. You want to use cheap copy paper, the thinnest stuff you can get, because when you mask with something that has got some quality to it, it's going to leave a little white edge to the side. So always mask in copy paper. So that is card number 2. Here's card number 3. I used the specialty, the Sand and Seed paper, DS paper, to make the sand and of course the water. And then I used Tasteful Labels for the sentiment label. But also I took this piece and I cut it up, and I cut the seaweed off as well, and I kind of put it where I wanted it. And I also colored it after I cut it. So it makes it a lot easier. So I colored after instead of before. I also made an extra little piece of this larger shell here, and made it into a little open oyster, and then put the pearl in there. And then inside, you've got the stamp set, and I'm going to do a video on just using the stamp set, but it has a shade. So I did that masking thing again. Remember to use junky copy paper, and so you stamp it, then you mask it with your junky copy paper, and then you do the shadow on top. Take this off. I also used that tape from the big box store, the green one. I know it's in the pink case here. That's because I lost it. So use this one. This is good for masking because it comes right off because it's really crummy tape. So, and that is the second card. So I hope you like my videos, and please subscribe, and that'll do it for me. Thanks. Bye.